Right then guys, it's PSL here for the 9th episode in my Formula 1 2003 Reverse Grid Race series. Now before we get into the European Grand Prix, I do just want to bring up the Drivers' Championship standings with half of the season completed. As it stands, David Coulthard is the Drivers' Championship leader with Michael Schumacher in second and only 3 points back. Kimi Räikkönen is in third, Barrichello in fourth, Montoya in fifth, and then there's a bit of a gap to Alonso, and then another big gap between himself and his teammate Jarno Trulli. Then you've got Jos Verstappen, then Ralf Schumacher, all the way down the order and nearly 3 race wins worth of points behind the Drivers' Championship leader. Now what you'll be seeing on screen is a notes document on my phone which has listed all of the best finishes from all of the drivers this season to date, and it exists purely just in case there's a scenario where 2 drivers end up on the same points count, and I use this information to break the tie break so I know which driver goes ahead of the other. And I just want to draw your attention to David Coulthard. Look how consistently he has finished in the points. His finishing record: 2 second places, a third place, 3 fourth place finishes, a 5th and an 11th. David Coulthard has finished every single Grand Prix, so he's had reliability on his side, but also he's been consistently finishing in the points. The only Grand Prix in which he didn't finish in the points and finished 11th was Monaco. But you compare his finishing record to Michael Schumacher's. 3 first place finishes, 3 race wins for Michael Schumacher, and a second place finish. Much more glamorous. That does actually leave 2 points unaccounted for, so that's not all of his points finishes, but even still, Michael Schumacher hasn't finished in the points on as many occasions, and that's partly because he's had reliability issues. The Spanish Grand Prix when his car slowed down, the San Marino Grand Prix when he had a complete engine failure. And that's the thing, David Coulthard is leading the Drivers' Championship through consistency. And I've said this since the very, very early days of the Reverse Grid series. I've always said that consistency of points finishes is more important than the quality of points finishes. But anyway, let's get on into the second half of the season. Let's explain the qualifying results first off, because Nick Heidfeld, starting from pole position for one of his 2 home Reverse Grid Grand Prix, that does need some explaining. And unfortunately, I can't really fully explain it, because there are a few Grand Prix, I've encountered this on a few occasions, where drivers don't qualify especially well, and I can't really get the full explanation. All I know is that Nick Heidfeld started from the pit lane, and he chose to do it because I was able to find a small amount of footage, which you'll be seeing now, which supposedly justifies it. So he went deep into the first corner, and he chose to go into the pit lane, so I think he must have made some other mistakes on his lap. He must have known that that lap wasn't going to be great, so he aborted it, went into the pit lane, and started from the pit lane for the Grand Prix, so he would have a free range on race strategy and car setup. Arguably, that is something that Jacques Villeneuve should have done. Villeneuve just didn't have a great lap either. To be fair, Villeneuve was slightly screwed over in qualifying because in the first session he was caught out by the rain. It was a rain-affected first qualifying session, which meant he ran earlier in the second session than he ordinarily would have done, but I don't think that fully explains it. I think he also made some mistakes on his qualifying lap. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 6th place. It just wasn't really a great qualifying session for Sauber. But this is a perfect opportunity for Sauber in this reverse grid race series. Let's not forget, Sauber are currently second to last in the Constructors' Championship. They've got double the points of Toyota, which sounds impressive until you realise that that's only a 4-point gap. In fact, actually, Sauber, they're just as far ahead of Toyota as they are behind Jordan. And both Sauber cars are starting ahead of both Jordan cars. This is a perfect opportunity for Sauber to move up in the Constructors' Championship. They're only 3 points behind Jaguar. But anyway, without further ado, let's head on into the Reverse Grid 2003 European Grand Prix.
We've got 20,000 Mercedes employees waiting to see their men get into turn 1 first. Can they manage it? Any moment now we'll be racing at the Nurburgring. The lights go out and we're away! And they're all away safely. No one takes to the grass as far as I can see. Rushing down the hill towards that right-hand turn 1.
Well, thank you, James Allen. And heading towards the first corner is going to be Jacques Villeneuve, who goes down the inside of Nick Heidfeld and already, briefly, took the race lead. He's been repassed by Heidfeld and I think also by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. What a fantastic start from Frentzen. Moving up from 6th to 2nd, now 3rd, but I've just noticed this is a Sauber versus BAR battle. And it's Jenson Button in 2nd. How did Button get ahead of Villeneuve? Well, I think Villeneuve going around the 2nd corner, that left-hander, I think he was caught out on the outside. Went slowly, and that allowed Frentzen through, but also Jenson Button. Jenson Button and Jacques Villeneuve in a battle for 2nd place. This is something. And I've never mentioned this, but the last Reverse Grid series I did was on Formula 1 2001. The Drivers' Championship contenders that season were Jacques Villeneuve and Jenson Button. They were in different teams in that season, but now those two former championship rivals are in the same team and are now battling for 2nd place. I imagine soon to be 1st. But one lap completed, Nick Heidfeld is leading the 2003 European Grand Prix. Jenson Button in 2nd, Jacques Villeneuve in 3rd, Frentzen in 4th. It's an all BAR and Sauber top 4. Montoya in 5th, Barrichello in 6th. Already we're seeing an emergence of the top teams. Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, they round out the points places. Jos Verstappen in 9th.
Is Montoya.
Montoya is locked in a battle for track position with Frentzen. Williams Juan Pablo Montoya has to be careful if he doesn't want to get passed by Rubens Barrichello.
Nick Heidfeld has just set the fastest lap. McLaren's David Coulthard sets a new fastest lap of the race.
Frentzen is doing his best to keep the other car behind him.
He is doing a fantastic job. I will probably extend that shot for quite a lot longer because Frentzen, I thought, was a goner down the start-finish straight, even around to the final corner. But he's kept 4th place for the time being, but now Barrichello has passed Montoya. In fact, now Montoya, I think, is going to be passed by a 2nd Ferrari driver in a matter of seconds. There you go. There is Michael Schumacher now in 6th place. Raikkonen further down the order. Was it Raikkonen? No, it was David Coulthard. Why did I think it was Kimi Raikkonen? But no, we've got Michael Schumacher. In fact, no, don't tell me it just happened. Michael Schumacher passed his teammate. Of course this happened. Of course. We saw this exact thing happen in Monaco. In the Monaco Grand Prix, Barrichello was ahead of Michael Schumacher, but then Barrichello was held up with a car in front of him, and Michael Schumacher, opportunistic, but he got through. To be fair, that position isn't signed and sealed because Barrichello is still there side by side, and I think Barrichello's got the inside line heading into the next corner. And this is a fantastic battle, but one that Michael Schumacher, for the time being at least, has won out on. It's still Heidfeld in 1st, Button 2nd, Villeneuve 3rd, Frentzen in 4th. It's a fantastic race if you're German. You've got Heidfeld at the front, you've got Frentzen in 4th, you've got Michael Schumacher in 5th, now 4th. Michael Schumacher passing Heidfeld, as does Barrichello. And Frentzen, he lost 2 places rounding the final corner. I think he's going to lose another one to the BMW-powered Williams. And potentially also the McLaren, or the Mercedes-powered McLaren. There's a lot of German representation in the points places. You've still got, though, Nick Heidfeld in first place. Jenson Button still can't find a way past. And in fact, actually, the Ferrari battle is still carrying on. Rubens Barrichello is not going to take this lying down. And Rubens Barrichello, I think, is going to do... He's going to do to Schumacher exactly what Schumacher did to him on the previous lap. Fantastic overtake from Rubens Barrichello down the inside of Michael Schumacher. That now leaves Barrichello in third, behind Jenson Button, Schumacher in fourth, Villeneuve fifth, Montoya in sixth, Frentzen in seventh. There's Kimi Raikkonen, and he's passed his teammate David Coulthard.
Ferrari's Rubens Barrichello is now the fastest man through sector 2. Heinz-Harald Frentzen looks like he'll improve on his current time. He's gone faster than before through sector 2. It's a fastest lap by Ferrari's Rubens Barrichello. And now the camera's picked up.
This Ferrari battle, I think, is also the battle for the race lead, but also I think the battle is going to be done very soon. We all know what's going to happen. There's going to be a gap down the inside. Michael Schumacher is just about going to take it. Michael Schumacher passing Nick Heidfeld, and he's now going up the Schumacher S, leading the German Grand Prix. Nick Heidfeld in second, Barrichello in third place. And I think, pending any reliability issues, that's the battle for the race lead done. I don't see Barrichello passing Schumacher, or even really Schumacher passing Barrichello, without traffic getting in the way. So we all know what's going to happen here. Round the final corner, Barrichello down the inside, using the power. In fact, actually, both Sauber and Ferrari run Ferrari engines. It's just that the Ferrari car has an engine that is a year newer. We've got a non-runner. In fact, what? 3 non-runners already. How on earth has that happened? And 2 of them were Renault drivers. And this is something I didn't mention in the intro, but Renault are doing incredibly well in the Constructors' Championship. Very close to Williams, because both Renault drivers have consistently, or reasonably consistently, finished in the points, certainly more so than Williams have as a whole. And also Renault, up until this Grand Prix at least, had suffered fewer reliability issues than Williams. Well, this was a good little scrap between Jacques Villeneuve and Kimi Raikkonen. The inevitable happened though, and that was Kimi Raikkonen overtook Jacques Villeneuve. He initially did it down the start-finish straight using that Mercedes power, but then Raikkonen taking the long outside line. He didn't need to. Jacques Villeneuve wasn't close to him at that point, but that allowed Villeneuve to catch back up down the inside, but then the outside for the following corner, and that is Kimi Raikkonen comfortably in 5th place.
Sets a new fastest lap of the race. You can see he's all over the back of him like a rash, trying to find the right time to overtake.
They're side by side now. No, denied once again.
I don't think so, James Allen. I really don't think Kimi Raikkonen was denied, because he passed Jenson Button comfortably and nearly passed Nick Heidfeld. That is Kimi Raikkonen up into 4th place. He's on the edge of securing that final podium spot. So, let's just have a recap. It's Michael Schumacher in 1st, Barrichello just a little ways back in 2nd, Heidfeld in 3rd, Kimi Raikkonen in 4th. I think we're going to see those positions swap. No, we won't. That is surprising, but I do feel as if there is a certain inevitability to Kimi Raikkonen passing Nick Heidfeld. There's 12 laps left to go. At some point, Kimi's going to do it.
He's moving up the inside now. Surely he's going to attempt a pass.
Down the inside he goes. Surely he's going to take the position from him now. And he powers past with ease. He's really flying now.
Barrichello.
Coulthard is fighting for position with Villeneuve.
You can see he's all over the back of him like a rash, trying to find the right time to overtake.
It looks as though he's lining up to try and make a pass.
They are side by side now. Oh, and look at that, he's powering past.
Rewinding back 30 seconds to the move Coulthard made on Villeneuve. Down the inside, that's the move Coulthard made, we all saw that. That wasn't the end of Villeneuve's troubles, because there's Coulthard solidifying the move on Villeneuve. He probably thinks he's done for a lap, does Jacques Villeneuve, but Montoya just saw a gap down the inside, broke later, caught up, alongside Jacques Villeneuve, and then Montoya just uses the power of the BMW engine to get past, and there you go, that's how Montoya got past Jacques Villeneuve. Of course, within mere seconds of Montoya passing Villeneuve, so does Ralf Schumacher. So that's 3 places lost for Jacques Villeneuve within half a lap.
BAR's Jenson Button has to be careful if he doesn't want to get passed by David Coulthard.
Well, Button can be as careful as he wants, but let's face it, he's in a BAR, David Coulthard is in a McLaren. No amount of care in the world is going to stop a McLaren passing a BAR, not in 2003. That is David Coulthard up into 4th place. And sorry, into 5th place, of course, with Nick Heidfeld in 4th. I forgot that Kimi Räikkönen is in 3rd. It's still Barrichello 2nd, Michael Schumacher in 1st. Still no dramas to report in terms of car reliability. And Jenson Button coming back on David Coulthard. Fantastic stuff! Jenson Button re-overtook David Coulthard, and Montoya also passed Coulthard as well, so that's a fantastic move for Montoya, but also brilliant for Jenson Button to re-pass David Coulthard whilst he's driving the inferior car.
The fastest lap of the race was
David Coulthard. Jenson Button tried hard, but in the end he couldn't keep back Coulthard.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Jenson Button, over the past couple of laps, was doing a brilliant job. Unfortunately, it's BAR versus McLaren. There's a certain inevitability to who's going to win that battle. So it's Jenson Button in 7th, Ralf Schumacher is in 8th, and then that's really that. I guess you would have a battle for the final points place between the 2 BAR drivers, although I would imagine Button's going to win it purely because he's got track position, for much the same reason that I imagine Michael Schumacher is going to win the Grand Prix over Rubens Barrichello. And it's Nick Heidfeld still in 4th place. He's been doing a fantastic job, but the Villeneuve line of defence broke down, then the Jenson Button line of defence broke down, so now it's just Nick Heidfeld.
Sauber's Nick Heidfeld has to be careful if he doesn't want to get passed by Montoya. BAR's Jenson Button has to be careful if he doesn't want to get passed by Ralf Schumacher.
Well, Ralf Schumacher, he's got one last attempt to pass Jenson Button on the run down towards the first corner. Is he going to make use of it finally? No! Ralf Schumacher for lap after lap after lap has been behind Jenson Button. He made a move once, it didn't work. In fact, actually, Villeneuve nearly overtook Ralf Schumacher for the final points place. But moving up to Michael Schumacher, leading his home Grand Prix, rounding the final corner, and it was just lucky really with how many cars were ahead of Rubens Barrichello, but Michael Schumacher, he got to the track position and he never gave it up. Michael Schumacher wins the European Grand Prix, Barrichello in 2nd. Again, it really depended on the number of cars that they had to get through on their way towards the front. If there was another car or one less car, Barrichello would have won the Grand Prix, based on track position. Kimi Raikkonen in 3rd place, David Coulthard in a pretty lonely 4th. Montoya in 5th, and then we've got Nick Heidfeld. For his home Grand Prix, he'll finish in 6th, because Jenson Button's in 7th. Ralf Schumacher still can't find a way past. That's Nick Heidfeld in 6th place, Jenson Button in 7th, because astonishingly, Ralf Schumacher could never get past either of them. Ralf Schumacher, he scored a point. So that was the 2003 European Grand Prix, and really, what can I add? Seriously, what is there to add? Track position was key around this circuit. I just knew that once Michael Schumacher got past Nick Heidfeld before Barrichello did, that's it. That was the race done, or the battle for the race lead done. I still maintain if Barrichello passed Nick Heidfeld first, Barrichello would have won the Grand Prix. It's just they were passing and repassing each other every lap, heading into the Dunlop corner. And it just so happened that when they passed Heidfeld, it was Michael Schumacher who was able to take advantage of the inside line to get past his teammate. Track position really was king, and I think nothing demonstrates that more than Ralf Schumacher's inability to pass Jenson Button. In the Drivers' Championship, Michael Schumacher has overtaken David Coulthard to top the table. It's Michael Schumacher now 2 points ahead of David Coulthard. In 3rd place, well, I believe that is still Kimi Raikkonen, but Rubens Barrichello is now on the same points count. Montoya scored 4 points, but really, that's just damage limitation, because every single driver ahead of Montoya in the Drivers' Championship standings also scored more points this Grand Prix. So Montoya really lost ground to every single driver ahead of him. But it was still a more successful Grand Prix for him than it was for Ralf Schumacher, who scored a point, but that doesn't make any difference to his position in the Drivers' Championship table. Jenson Button scored 2 points to be on the same points count as his teammate, and Nick Heidfeld scoring 3 points this Grand Prix means he has now overtaken Mark Webber. There's only been one change in the Constructors' Championship, and that is Ferrari have overtaken McLaren. It's still only a 2-point gap between the two teams, so it's still all to play for the remainder of the season. Williams are all but out of it. I really just don't see Williams competing for the Constructors' Championship. It's still good news for Williams in the Constructors' Championship as they scored 5 points, which is 5 more than Renault. We'll have no idea how well Renault would have done in this Grand Prix because both of their drivers retired early on. And as I said in the race commentary, that's really strange. Renault this season have had fantastic reliability. Both drivers have only retired once, now twice of course, and also both drivers have won a Grand Prix this season. So Renault are seriously a force to be reckoned with. They could easily beat Williams in the Constructors' Championship. There's still only a 9-point gap between the two teams. BAR scored 2 points thanks to Jenson Button, so they've now closed up to Minardi. That's so strange to talk about BAR closing the gap to Minardi. And finally, the only other thing to talk about in regards to the Constructors' Championship is that Sauber are now tied on points with Jaguar. I said in the pre-race build-up that this race was a perfect opportunity for Sauber to move up in the Constructors' Championship. And well, they certainly have. They're now tied on points with Jaguar. So then guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video for the French Grand Prix around Magny-Cours. So I'll see you guys then.